What's up, everybody? Welcome to Rated Emperor Podcast. This is episode 29, your video game podcast, weekly, that is. I'm your host. That was a weird opening intro, but we're going to leave it at that. I'm your host, Rory. As always, is the lovable, huggable teddy bear of a man. Sean, say what's up.
What's up?
And you listeners and or viewers on Twitch might be wondering where Drew is, our bastion of reason. He's away. I don't know where he actually is. He's off driving around somewhere, doing something
No, he
fun.
went to a wedding. He had to go to a
Ah,
wedding.
he's at a wedding. All right. Well, Drew's not here this week, so Sean and I are gonna play it fast and loose. Maybe there'll be lube, maybe not. We'll see how the evening goes on. But there's some fun news happening this week. Ubisoft. What's the other guy's name? BioWare taking little jabs at each other. We're gonna get to that a little bit later, as well as cover just a few little pieces of news. But first, it's time for what you playing. Sean, it's been a busy week in video games. Why don't you tell me what you have been playing?
Well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you because I'm under embargo.
Hey, you
I
know what? I
uh,
think it'll be worth it. What are you going to tell me? Come on.
I played for a review. I played The Evil Within
Ooh,
from Tango GameWorks and Bethesda Softworks, and that review will be up tomorrow at 9:01 Pacific Time, 12:01 a.m. Eastern.
The Evil
And
Within.
that's yeah.
I got some footage up on the
That
screen right now.
and that is pretty much all I can say about that. And then, I've also I fired up right before the podcast. Okay. So last week I was talking a couple of weeks. You in the chat we were talking about how I was supposed to get Shadow of Mordor the week of release from
Yes.
GameFly, and it never came. 8 days later, I was like, "Hey, it didn't come." They finally canceled it from my queue and sent me another one, and then I got both of them. So now I have two copies here. I'm going to send one back. And I started playing that for like about an hour. And even just in an hour, I have to say, Ubisoft must have some kind of copyright infringement like case because this is so much like Assassin's
It's
Creed.
cra-
It's
it's
ridiculous.
it's crazy, and we'll get into that because that's what I've been playing actually. So, but
And
you
that
can't you
and
can't.
I've only been playing for like an hour.
Well, the whole thing is that they say there isn't a lick of code in there, right? That they don't have a lick of code from Ubisoft's game or anything like that in there. It could be modified off of the, stuff from the Arkham engine, possibly because of the fighting engine, and even sometimes the way you walk around and the way the cape is. I can imagine just like taking Batman out and putting in their new model of the Ranger in there.
No, I know, but it's just like even just a traversal, like walking across the ropes are between like buildings or like rocks are like exactly the
Yeah,
same as the way you walk across. His mannerisms are the same. It's just crazy to me. And the funny thing is, though, it's way more fluid in terms of everything. As much as I like Assassin's Creed, uh, fluidity is not one of its like strengths or one of the high marks that you would give it. But this feels really good. I need to really, I mean, like I literally only played like about an hour, so I'm not very far at all.
all right.
So I and I kind of put up Destiny. I played Destiny for a little bit in the beginning of the week, and then uh, and then I wound up going. No, actually Sunday I put it up, and I was like, all right, I'm done with this for now. I'll come back to it when they release more content. And I went back to Watch Dogs and started playing, fumbling around with that, trying to get some trophies and stuff, just to kill time until The Evil Within showed up.
All right, The
And
Evil Within, your review's coming out. When did you say tomorrow?
tomorrow at 9:01 p.m. Pacific time.
Tomorrow at 9:01 p.m. All right, so you can't give us any juicy details. I know the viewers, if they've been following you as a gamer, as a fan, when you had your first hands-on play with it, you weren't super into it. You had a lot of faults that you were pointing out. I'm
Well,
guessing there's a lot of people interested to check out this review tomorrow. That's for sure.
one of the things that surprised me the most was that first preview event that we went to prior to E3 2013. There was a whole section of the game that they demoed. It was hands off, but it was demo, and that was one of the things where I was kind of like, "Hey, he was fortified, and there was." the quote unquote zombies. In this, they're called the haunted, coming through the windows, and it just felt a lot like that one moment in Resident Evil 4. Like,
Okay,
I
yeah.
mean, to the point where it was basically like the same thing. It was like a remake of that scene. But that whole section, that whole chunk of the game that they showed, not in the game.
Interesting. So there's been
Not in the game at all.
that was just some slice that they had together and decided forget it, like it's got to get cut.
I mean, I don't know what the thing was. It could have been feedback saying, "Hey, this is a little too much like Resident
I
Evil."
was thinking, do you think it was
That could have.
cut from the game then, or that was actually never part of the main game? It was something that they had, again, like a slice that they had made and kind of fine-tuned to what they thought was okay to show, but it was never actually part of the game, or was it something that they've
Well,
cut?
the first part that they showed was actually in the game, and it played out exactly the way they showed it.
Gotcha.
So I'm thinking it was actually part of the game that just got cut. And the funny thing is, there like during that section, he was putting bombs on the wall, so they were like proximity mines that they would come and go. And the proximity mines are still in the game, but not for you to use. You have to dismantle them. So they changed that mechanic as well. I
Hmm.
won't, I'm not going to give anything else away, but
Yeah, no,
it's just interesting.
you said enough. You know me as like an old school Resident Evil fan and like just an old school type guy like with his games. I've been really looking forward to the Evil Within, and I'm curious to see how it comes out. It's been mostly negative talk leading up to release with all the previews and such. That being said, you never know until you play the full game what you're gonna think of it. So looking forward to all the reviews that come out. I'm sure it's gonna be a polarizing game, but I'm hoping for the best.
Well, next week I'll be able to go into more detail about like my preview versus like and how that reflects in my review and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I can't because otherwise I'll be spoiling stuff. So
Totally, and we got to keep it spoiler free. The embargo's up too, so tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, we can look forward to your review, and I'm guessing a whole lot of other people's reviews as well.
yes.
Okay, well, my turn. Sean, ask me what I've been playing.
No. What are you playing?
I am playing Shadow of Mordor, and unlike you, I've actually put in quite a lot of time now. I haven't been distracted having to review anything at the moment, and I'm really, really enjoying this game. For those that are watching on Twitch and YouTube and such, you can see some footage playing in the background now. You that are just listening on iTunes, get with the picture, join us live, partake. There's video. But yeah, I've been loving this game, and like you say, it's surprising that Ubisoft isn't going to have some sort of claims to copyright in a sense. But it's taking the best of Assassin's Creed and the best of the Arkham series as far as like gameplay goes and meshing them into this awesome gameplay experience. The combat is phenomenal. The only weak thing that I'm sort of experiencing with the story, with the game itself, is sort of the story and the missions. Like I don't find the missions all that varying in a sense, or that all that much interesting, or all that interesting, I should say. But the gameplay keeps me hooked, and above all else, the Nemesis system. You've been too early in your gameplay to really get in depth with it and experience like how this thing unfolds. But this Nemesis system in the game Middle Earth, Shadow of Mordor, is awesome, man. It keeps me playing that game. I get killed so many times. I swear to God, I've died more in this game than I did playing Dark Souls, and it's awesome though. It makes death fun. You can see how the orcs that have killed you level up. They start having eternal power struggles, killing each other off. You can sort of possess them and send them to infiltrate different war chiefs' parties and environments and such. Just a all-round excellent game though. Having a blast with it. I encourage all of you out there that haven't played it to go check it out when you can. If you're waiting for a sale, whatever. But Shadow of Mordor, fucking awesome. I don't know if it's the 9.3 IGN gave it, but it's a great game, a really great game. So that's what we've been playing. I haven't really been playing much else other than that. I'm gonna leave it at that. Shadow of Mordor, really. That's what I've been playing.
Well, just to touch on that a little bit, like I'm obviously not very far in the story, but
Ask questions, yes.
the setup was very effective to me.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who doesn't play it, but I mean, it's literally within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the game, and I was like, that's all, that's good enough for me. I'm
No, no,
motivated.
no.
Let's do this.
It's awesome. Like that opening is intense, and I couldn't believe it sort of started like that. And the game itself, just throughout, is intense. It's just unapologetic in its violence, really. Like it's just insane. And once you start comboing up and you're just hacking orcs' heads off in slow motion, left, right, and center, it's phenomenal. But it is plot-wise, it's a very basic sort of revenge story. We've seen it before. It's not a bad story. It's just nothing super original. But it's in the Lord of the Rings universe. There's some cool tie-ins with the movies and books that we already know of because it takes place between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings stuff. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's a good game. The gameplay and the AI is what is keeping me hooked on that. And I'll say that I don't know if the meter how correct it is when I boot up the game and it has the amount of hours next to it, but it says that I've played 30, I think 35, between 35 and 40 hours so far, and I haven't finished the campaign. I'm only overall like 25% completed. So big game, lots of stuff to do. That said, the
Oh,
map isn't huge though.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that said, there's a big game. There's lots to do there, but the maps themselves, there's two maps that you get. Um, they look big when you sort of look at them from the menus option, but then you realize how quick you can run across them. So the scale of it is actually a little bit smaller than I was expecting, but good stuff in there anyway. What were you gonna say, Sean?
I was going to say one thing I can say about the Evil Within that isn't a spoiler.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
It took me 17 hours and 16 minutes to complete the game.
Awesome.
And it does at the end of the game um, it gives you a timer, and then it says how long you completed it, how long it took you to complete it, and how many times you died.
Cool. Does it have other
Uh,
stats like just how many guys you've killed and how many items
I
you've
haven't
used?
really dug too deep into the stats and stuff like that, like because that stuff's not really important to me.
Yeah.
I did get a trophy for killing 100 enemies, so that
Awesome.
happened. But it's not. You're not going to be killing lots, and I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to give away anything, but it's not Uncharted. Let's put it that way.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
With
Like
me,
so.
it's like when I'm playing Lord of the Rings, it depends. If it's a game where I spend a lot of time like killing guys in an open world environment, like Grand Theft Autos and things like that, and Shadow of Mordor, I do appreciate getting those sort of in-depth stats, even some of them that are the ridiculous ones that you don't really need to know, just like how many steps you've taken and such. Like, because I keep with Shadow of Mordor, I just keep wanting to know like how many orcs have I killed, and not only that, how many have I killed by beheading, and just those fun little
And
stats that I think would be great to know with that
does it
game.
give you that?
It doesn't. I haven't seen it. I looked last night in the options and I can't find anything. The only option I can
Yeah.
get is when I load up the game, it tells me apparently how long I've been playing.
Okay.
But that's it. I can't find any deeper stats. I do like to scroll through. I don't think they're necessary for every game, but I do personally like to kind of like go into that menu every now and again, especially after beating a game. Like when I beat Grand Theft Autos or Red Dead Redemptions or any of Rockstar games, it's the first thing I do after I beat the game and the credits roll. I go into like the stats and just see how many hours it took me to beat it and just look at everything. It's so in detailed, and I really appreciate that stuff.
Yeah. No, I do too. I think that's kind of cool that they keep track of that stuff.
All right, moving on then. First little nugget of news. It's just a light piece. Xbox One. Phil Spencer has said in the near future, they haven't pegged it down though, that Xbox One will be getting customizable themes along with custom background pictures. And the most important feature to be added that a lot of us Xbox One owners are going to be very happy about, the ability to take screenshots. Now, that's a function that the PS4 has had since launch, I believe, if not close to launch. Sean,
Launch.
as an Xbox One owner and a PS4 owner, do you take a lot of pictures with the PS4's screenshot mode, and are you excited to finally be able to do that with Xbox One games?
I wouldn't call it excited, but I like the feature. The I use it a lot. I just deleted about 19 gigs worth of photos off my PS4 that I just take, and I don't know what I'm going to use them for, but I take them. And but whenever I review a game, and I did this for the Evil Within, I take screenshots and then I pick from the screenshots, and I use those actual screenshots taken from my playthrough, and put them into my review.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a cool feature. It's definitely something I like. I'm a big shipper of Xbox Record That, but nope, sorry, yeah, you can't record that when I'm on Skype. Thanks for telling me, Xbox. but yeah, it's like I'm a huge fan of that feature. So yeah, definitely want to use it because I imagine I'll be reviewing games for Xbox. And when I reviewed Sniper Elite for it, and I didn't have that feature, so I had to get screenshots off the internet, and that's not fun. It doesn't reflect my actual playthrough. So
Yeah, I agree. I hate having to, if I can't get something as far as like a press sort of like package from the publisher saying, hey, here's some pics to use in your review or whatever. I hate having to source stuff off the internet because it just means that I'm pulling it from somebody else that's probably used it as well. And I'd like to take images, like you say, that are reflective of my experience with the game. I'm super hyped that we're gonna get the screenshot function on Xbox. That's one of the apps that I've been really jealous of on the PlayStation 4 side, coming from like Halo Forge and such like that, and just shooting a lot of my videos and grabbing all those screenshots. I'm really looking forward to that. Background pictures and customizable themes, I'm excited for as well. But I'm curious if that's how that's going to be applied to the current dashboard look and interface, or if when those updates come, we're going to have that new remodeled user interface that Microsoft has been talking about for a little while. Is there any idea when that the user interface update is coming down, or is it going to be how it is for the near future? Do you know, Sean?
I honestly don't know. I don't keep up with the like updates like on the Xbox because I'm part of the preview program. So it's whatever comes.
Yeah. All right. Well, Xbox is getting it hopefully sooner than later because that's going to be a great update. Next on the list, there's a lot of bad video game movies out there, and we've been hoping that with Assassin's Creed and maybe Splinter Cell, things are going to be taking a turn for the better, and the medium will be respected a little bit more. We'll get some quality films. Whether or not that happens, we never know. But another movie based off a video game has just been announced. This one really out of left field. Tetris, the movie. Um,
This is the stupidest idea in the history of stupid ideas.
mind blown. I mean, my mind was blown when they announced that, hey, Battleship is now going to be a movie, and I was kind of like,
Battleship. Okay,
they found their way,
Battleship
they
could have
found a
been
way
a
to do
really
it. Like,
good. Battleship could have been a good naval war movie, and they decided to because it's Hasbro. They decided to insert an alien invasion of robots. It was just
I didn't even mind the alien aspect of it. My biggest problem with the movie, really, its most offensive aspects of the movie to me are Rihanna being in that movie. She just like destroys the screen every time she's on it, other than her beauty. But she's just like she's terrible, terrible in that movie. And one like Peter Berg, he was. I thought this guy was really going to be kind of like one of our next great action directors. He did The Rundown, which I thought was awesome, with The Rock and Christopher Walken. And he did some other good action stuff. He did Friday Night Lights as well. But this one, it's like, it's
he
not even his own style or his own voice. It's like, hey, let me try and mimic Michael Bay the best I absolutely
that's
can. And that was my biggest. I
you
was
know
like, Berg, what are you doing, dude? You have a voice. You're a talented director. Why are you mimicking somebody else right here?
I think that came from the higher ups. I think it was a job, it was a paycheck. But Peter Berg is a good director. He directed The Kingdom, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He directed very bad things, which was phenomenal. He's got a lot of versatility. He can do comedy. He could do action. He did Hancock, which I also think is a highly underrated movie.
Yeah, he's an actor himself, right? So he gets it. He
Yes,
gets it on
yeah,
both sides of the camera.
and I think he's a very good director. He's actually one of my favorite directors. That one just seems like it was just a work for hire. He said, "Hey, like I'll do this." Who knows? It might have been part of a deal that he had to do something
Well,
else.
he's confessed to being a massive Navy fan. Like he collects models, he knows those ships. He's got friends and family in the Navy, so it was more than just like a paycheck to him. He was genuinely. I remember reading interviews, and he was genuinely invested and interested in the movie. But it just yeah. Anyway, we're not really talking about Battleship. We're talking about Tetris. The guys that are making this movie, it's actually coming from the production company that was behind the original Mortal Kombat both the movies, which at first is exciting to me because I was like, Mortal Kombat, still one of my favorite video game movies. At least it kind of, for its time, handled the
Ugh,
material okay. I like some of the
ugh.
characters. Sean, relax, relax. But Mortal Kombat 2 was like, that's the first movie in my memory, on record in my head, that I remember looking at the screen and being like, I gotta walk out of this. And I don't think I've ever actually walked fully out of a movie, but Mortal Kombat Annihilation was the first movie the thought ever crossed my mind. So it's those guys behind it. Tetris, the movie. Sean,
I
what can Tetris be, man?
I don't fucking know. It's
If
just so
somebody was like, Sean, I got this
stupid.
great idea. We're gonna make Tetris a movie, but that's all we got. We need an idea. What kind of movie is it?
I would walk out of the room.
It's live action. They've said it's not CG. It's live action. I'm sure it's gonna have obviously some CG mixture, but it's just a
This
weird,
is it's just
weird thing.
stupid. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's dumb. For like Creed and Splinter Cell can't get here soon enough.
All right. Do you think there's any chance in the world that Tetris the movie could surprise you and be great?
Anything's possible, but I am not holding my breath.
All right. Don't hold your breath. Next up,
It just doesn't scream movie to me.
yeah, I agree. But because I know so little, like, I mean, I balk at the idea, obviously, like right at the beginning. But it's like now I've been like, this is stupid, like you say. I don't get it. It's the dumbest idea for a movie, but I don't even know what the idea for the movie is. So now I'm past all that. Now I just have to sit here, I guess, and be like, all right, show me what you got. Let's see what it is. And I guess I'll stay open-minded until I see that first trailer and go, yep, okay, dumb. All right, guys. Next on the list, we're keeping it light tonight. Drew's away. Sean and I are just gonna munch on some snacks, talk about some toys next. I saw some images of Clementine coming from McFarlane Toys. Now it's still game related, everybody, so hang on here. I'm a collector at heart. I like to get some good collectibles here and there. I thought the Clementine thing looked really cool. On top of that, there's been a bunch of other collectibles that have come out recently that are amazingly well done, including this brilliant Han Solo figure. It's only 250 bucks for this thing, but it's probably the most incredible Han Solo I've ever seen. For you that are listening, look it up. You can't see what I'm showing on screen right now, but look up the new Han Solo and Chewie action figures, and you won't be disappointed if you're into that stuff. There's a pic of Chewie right now. The detail work is incredible, and I wanted to bring these up because I was thinking it'd be kind of fun, Sean, to ask you if you could have any. I know you're not a big collector at heart, but if you could have any collectible from a movie or a video game that was like handcrafted for you, the Sean Messler edition, what would it be?
I don't have a handcrafted one, but I have one collectible. I have sideshow collectibles of Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Nice.
It's my favorite Friday the 13th film. It's the movie that got me into making wanting to make movies, believe it or not.
Which one is the final chapter? Is that the one where Jason kills a bunch of people with a machete?
Well, actually, the ones where he kills a bunch of people with the machete is the remake and Jason versus Freddy. If you
Ah,
watch any of the other ones, he really doesn't use a machete all
it's
that
a
often.
what is it? A knife?
He uses whatever he can get his hands on, and in the final chapter, he uses a knife. He uses a bone saw. He uses a spear. He uses a corkscrew slash meat cleaver combo. He uses wood axe. He uses those three pronged. I forget what they're called. The three pronged thing that you use to dig up your garden.
Yeah,
Uh,
like a
he,
hoe? Don't they call it a? Oh no, that's more of like a
not
spady end. Yeah, never mind. I just
yeah.
wanted to say the word hoe on the
He
street there.
uses one of those. So he crushes a dude's head with his bare hands. So he's pretty versatile. But yeah, I have that. Because that's he's my favorite horror character. He's just and that's like I said, it's like the first movie that made me want to make movies. It has a lot of sentimental value to me. Plus, I really enjoy the movie. It's the one with Crispin Glover. If you've never
Okay.
seen it,
Yep.
but yeah, so yeah, that's the one collectible I have. But that Han Solo one does look pretty fucking cool. I'm a
It's
huge Han Solo fan,
it
so
is insane. I saw that image for the first time and I looked over my girlfriend and just said Christmas. Christmas, baby. But man, if I want the set, I want Han and Chewie, and that's like 500 bucks essentially for the pair. But money well spent, very few would argue. So there's nothing. There's no like dream statue that you could want. No like, oh, this is what I want. I want a Super Mario Brothers diorama.
No, I'm not. I'm just not into. I'm not into collecting. I don't even collect video games. Like like I have. I've been playing games my whole life, and I right now I have probably about maybe 20 games. I just don't. I don't. I'm not a collector.
Yeah, things come and
I
go.
used. I used to collect records like vinyl 7 inches and stuff for hardcore bands, but even then I got to the point where I was like, the only people that care about this are dudes, and I don't care about impressing dudes, so I started selling them. So it was just like, I'm just not, I just don't have that kind of, I used to have a really extensive movie collection, but money got tight, so I had to sell some of it. I still have, it's a shell of what it used to be, but I probably have about 200 movies. But that's because I'm not collecting it because it's a keepsake. I collect them because I always want to have something to do.
Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
My
It,
collectibles outside of the games and movies thing are very much just passive collectibles. Like they're there to admire. They're some of them are action figures, but they're not there to play with. They're literally there for me just to sit back and be like, "Yes, you are a geek, Rory. Relish that. Embrace it. Surround yourself with these statues and toys like they were a warm, nuzzly blanket." So right now I got some Gears of War, like 8-inch awesome figures, and I got some Witcher stuff. I got Star Wars figures all over the place. I've had Star Wars figures in packages that I've carted around from apartment to apartment for like the last 15 or so years. And just last year I finally caved and was like, I gotta open some of these, and I just ripped open a few boxes so that I could have them. And it was the greatest feeling of my life, man. I felt like the whole world had come off my shoulders, carrying around these fucking toys for ages trying to keep them in mint shape when they've only gone up in value about 30 cents over the last 15 years. But if I could pick any dream collectible made for myself, I brought up Mario a little bit earlier. That's what it would be, though. It would actually be the Super Mario characters, or at least the Nintendo characters that I grew up with, like Mario, Link, Samus Aran, and such. And I would actually implant them into the world of Akira and have like just like an alleyway in Neo Tokyo with the Mario characters, but wearing like Kaneda's outfit. Like Mario would be on Kaneda's bike as well, and they would all just be like decked out like that. That would be my ultimate custom. Hey Rory, if we could make you any collectible you want, that's what it would be. But I'm gonna have to pick up those Han Solo things as well in the near future. But anyway, toys, Tetris, Xbox getting customizable themes, what you're playing. Now it's time to talk about some real pressing issues. Sean, I know you got a strong opinion about this. It's all about Assassin's Creed parody. All right, Ubisoft's come out and said some things. I'll let Sean fill you in, quote you on that stuff. And BioWare, of course, the makers of Mass Effect, have come out and maybe thrown a punch, maybe not. It seems too well timed out, not to be coincidence. But Sean, why don't you fill in everybody and let them know what's been going on this week?
okay, so I'm just gonna give you the facts, and then I'll give you my opinion.
Let's hear it.
So Video Gamer published an article on Monday of last week that Assassin's Creed Unity will run at 900p slash 30 frames per second on both PS4 and Xbox One. This is the quote that Vincent Pombrion told Video Gamer. He said, "We decided to lock them at the same specs to avoid all the debates and stuff."
What debate?
There,
What
then
debates are those, Sean?
wait.
Tell me
I'm
now.
gonna continue. I'm going to continue so that we can get all the facts out of the way so that we can go back to the first one.
All right, that's smart.
Then later on he says technically we're CPU bound. The GPUs are really powerful. Obviously the graphics look pretty, but it's the CPU that has to process the AI, the number of NPCs we have on the screen, all these systems running in parallel. We were quickly bottlenecked by that, and it was a bit frustrating because we thought this was going to be a tenfold improvement over everything AI wise, but we realized it's going to be pretty hard. It's not the number of polygons that would affect the frame rate. We would be running at 100 frames per second if it was just graphics, but because of the AI, we're limited to 30 frames per second. Now, going back to the original quote,
Dig deep.
we decided to lock them at the same specs to avoid all the debates and stuff. This is what the internet caught on to. This is what I caught on to. That, what does that mean? Because I know a lot of people are trying to deflect that original quote with the second part of the quote, but in the second part of the quote, he expressly talks about whether or not it affects the frames per second. But to say that they locked the specs to avoid all the debates and stuff, it made everyone think of the ongoing debates about how powerful the PS4 is versus the Xbox One. And in order to avoid debates, they're just going to play it even for both consoles. And the problem I have there is I don't care necessarily about the resolution. I care about the implications of holding back the potential of one console to match the parity of the lesser console, going for a lowest common denominator to avoid arguing.
Yeah, and for the record, it doesn't seem like we know for a fact that's what's going on, but it definitely, I mean, Ubisoft has chosen some poor words and they're backtracking on the matter, hasn't really cleared anything up. So that's the way
Well,
it's
yeah,
definitely looking. It's fair enough to say it looks that way.
and here's the problem I have with the correction and the backtracking. The he he said the guy they issued a statement where they said we understand why Pombrion's quote is misinterpreted. And then they go on to say we would never intentionally lock down the other thing. But the problem is that they don't talk about what they don't address what was misinterpreted about the quote.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then a day later, they said that it's not locked at 900. It still could change.
I saw that.
So
It reminds me a lot of the early Microsoft stuff where you just have multiple people coming out saying different things and they're all not on the same page clearly, and now it becomes this muddled mess of what the fuck do I believe, right?
yeah, and the thing is like here's like and a lot of people are missing the point of this the ire. I feel like a lot of people are getting caught up on the resolution part of it and not the greater implications that I expressed earlier is that holding one system back to match the capabilities of the other system is shitty and it shouldn't be done. If one console, if they made PlayStation made the choice with their specs, Xbox made the choice with their specs, that's your bed, lie in it. Don't sit there and put it up to developers to sit there and go, well, we want to avoid debates. Now there could be some kind of conspiracy because, for all intents and purposes, and it's funny because on Giant Bomb they talked about this and my mind went to the same thing, is that Microsoft has for the first time ever a co-marketing deal with Activision. I mean, with Ubisoft for Assassin's Creed. Usually, Assassin's Creed is marketed by PlayStation. And and
Wait,
by
so
that
they're
mean
both allowed to have commercials that have the game like leading on their platform as an example, like not
no.
just okay. So clarify that for me then.
So what's going to happen is it used to be like you would see an Assassin's Creed trailer, and then at the bumper on the trailer would say PlayStation.
Yes.
It would be like PlayStation 3. And this time with this game, it's saying Xbox One. When you look at all the marketing, the Xbox version is in the front.
Oh, see,
Uh,
that's what I was wondering. It is, eh? Because I thought when I saw at least around the E3 time and such when they were showing trailers for Assassin's Creed, I thought they were ending with like the PlayStation logo. But maybe
no, because at E3, Assassin's Creed Unity was shown on the Xbox stage.
mm,
And then I remember during E3, which was I remember commenting on it because I felt like it was way too soon to be advertising the game. But during E3 on Hulu, they would show Assassin's Creed Unity trailers, and then at the end it would say Xbox One. And like I said, if you see like paper ads or if you see at the end of their trailers, you'll see Assassin's Creed Unity. Then it'll have the three SKUs: PC in the back, PlayStation 4, and then Xbox One stacked on top of both of those. So you can see that it says PlayStation 4. You can see that it says PS3, PC, but the Xbox One box is in the front, and that's part of their marketing. And so Microsoft is paying for the ads. So naturally, so one would think, okay, so Microsoft has already had requested parity from other games, and it's gone the other direction. Like Diablo went up to 1080p. In this one, it could be like, well, it's impossible for us to get you up to 1080p, so we're going to bring the other one down for parity. That's the way it reads to me, And if they had explained better after the fact, then and said specifically what he meant by that quote. And it's very easy. They could have said we wanted to avoid internal debates, which is still bullshit because they would still have debates on whether or not to agree with that. But they didn't clarify that. And then the next day they were like, oh well, it's not locked. And it's like, well, okay, so now you're saying it was only the context of that conversation is that it was locked only for this presentation, not for all perpetuity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's the problem is that there isn't a communication, and then the communication that they've had has been very poor, and going with all the information that we have, going from the launch till now, PlayStation 4 has had a much easier time hitting 1080p than the Xbox One.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that. It's not to discredit. I'm not saying the Xbox is a bad console. It's not. I'm talking to you on it. I have it. I use it. I love it. But the fact remains is that it is less powerful than the PS4. That's just a state of fact. That's like saying water is wet. That's like saying the grass is green. It's just what it is. You know what I mean?
Totally, and I think the Xbox users that plan to never get a PlayStation, which I think is nuts because I'm on the side of you, Sean, where it's just like if you want to play all the best games, like you gotta have an Xbox One, you gotta have a PlayStation 4. But for those that are only gonna play on Xbox and they're just gonna ignore the PlayStation 4, I think the reality is those people gotta just really accept the fact that we might not have 1080p multi-console games as regular as the PlayStation 4 does, and it's not
And
going
the
to make
thing
the
is,
game any worse. It's not, most people aren't going to notice, but it's just one of those things that you kind of have to accept and then be secure in your fucking purchase. It drives me nuts when I see people that are lashing out mainly out of insecurity of their
yeah.
Xbox One, which is insane because 900p. It's not 1080p. Of course, 1080p is slightly better, but I mean, it doesn't make your game any less fun to play, any less beautiful, really, to 98% of those people playing the games. And it drives me nuts. I do agree, though, that it's a bad thing and it's setting a bad precedent if it is indeed true that they're pulling the PlayStation 4 version back to avoid the debate with Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 versions. I don't think everybody should be whining and crying and making a big deal about the same game being 1080p and 900p on Xbox One, but I do agree that it's a big deal if this is going to be a trend at all in the future of one system being held back by another, because I really don't think that should be the case. It's just it's
And
crazy.
and people bring up PC. Well, PC is held back by the console, and I'm like, well, but the PC is scalable, and it has mods, so you can do a lot of shit with that you can't. We're locked into what the disc is and what DLC is that we purchase on consoles. Whereas PC, it's like you can make a good looking game look even better if you want to take the mod
Yeah,
tools. There's people
PC
who
is a whole
created.
different beast. I don't even really like, and this is not to just ignore the PC market and the PC players, but I don't even when I get into conversations about like comparing games and comparing consoles and what they can do, like I don't even bring PC into the equation. It's like I don't really think it's a fair comparison in a sense. And these guys that are like, well, come on, guys, like 1080p, who cares? Like I've been doing 1440 by whatever on my PC for ages, and there are some PC gamers out there, but the reality is the PC gaming market, even though it's growing exponentially, year after year over the last few years, is still this tiny, tiny little sliver of the pie that is the video game industry. And the consoles still dominate, and most people don't play on both regularly. Like I'm a big gamer, but when I think about exclusives and all that stuff and the comparisons, it's always about Xbox and PlayStation and Wii U, not PC.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, it's a different piece. The market doesn't even consider it in in the same ballpark as competition. Yes, it's a place where you can play games, but it's just not. It's differentiated. So in terms of in the console space, this shouldn't be a thing. This shouldn't be something that comes along and happens. And the funny thing is that like on the same breath as we're saying, oh, we don't want this to be a trend, BioWare
I
this
was just
week,
gonna say, let's hear it. Somebody's countering with a punch.
had a tweet on October 10th, which
It
was
was like the next
when was
day,
that?
right? Or a
It was
day
like two
later, two
days
days
later.
later.
It was like 2 days later. It said confirmed Dragon Age, hashtag DAI resolution is 1080p on PS4 and 900p on Xbox One. We maximize the current potential of each platform. So,
Yeah, it's just like the timing of that, man. It's just like, first of all, do you think they wrote out that tweet and then sort of looked at each other with a little bit of a troll face grin, and we're kind of like, do we do it? Do we do it, guys? Do we hit tweet? Do we hit tweet? And they're all just like, and they just hit that button, and they all just watch everything like explode around them.
and
Do you think that's a direct? Do you think that's just? I mean, that it's too. The timing is too crazy for that to be coincidental. Like they have to be referencing what happened with Ubisoft and Assassins, right? Like it has
well,
to be that, or is there another explanation?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think because prior to that, I saw some rumblings going around that Dragon Age was going to be 900p on both, and and then I
Did
saw
you see
that, and
these
I was
rumblings
like,
before the Assassin's Creed thing, or after
no,
that?
they were after. They were
Okay,
after. It was just like somebody, it was an Xbox person saying like, "Oh, look, this too," you know what I mean? But then I saw that and I posted it and I was like, "This is priceless."
gotcha.
Um, and because a part of me, I have a little troll in me too, but mostly because I just like seeing fanboys get upset. And
For any of you artists that are out there listening to the podcast right now, I'm tasking you right now to doodle up Trollface Sean. I want to see what that looks like as a drawing. Trollface Sean is your homework assignment for the week. Next week, I want to see some Trollface Sean pictures. Anyway, go on, Sean.
but yeah, so I just seeing that, it's just like it says a lot to me. Well, I mean, obviously they probably don't have anywhere near the AI ambitions that Assassin's Creed Unity has, but it is an open world game. It is a massive game, and it's getting the resolution and the key word is we maximize the potential both consoles currently have. Like, so that's saying right there, right now, currently, we can hit 1080p. We cannot hit it on Xbox One. That's not trolling. That's not being a dick. That's just saying this is the truth. This is a factual
No,
thing.
totally. Comments like that should only really annoy the insecure. That's sort of what, going back to what I was saying with those like Xbox One owners, like just fucking play your games and enjoy your games. Like it's just crazy to me a year later that it's still such a big issue for some people. Like if it's
And
that
the
big of an issue for you, go trade your Xbox One, put that money towards a PlayStation 4, and you're good to go. I'm just gonna check out the chat right here. William was saying was asking you with Dragon Age. I think he's referring to Dragon Age. He can clarify, but I think it's related to Dragon Age. And he's asking, hey Sean, will that influence which console you buy? Oh, there's the answer. Which console you buy Dragon Age Inquisition on? You primarily go PlayStation, I think, for your multi-console games, right?
Yeah, my multi-platform games are PlayStation 4 for the simple reason that I don't prefer one controller over the other. Single player games, I'm just gonna. It doesn't matter. I don't have an affinity for achievements over trophies. I like collecting them on both when I get them, but I'm not like tied to my gamer score being like I want it to get bigger and I want to have more platinums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
No, I think it
I
makes sense
have.
for a multi-console owner if you're playing a single-player game and it's something you're gonna be enjoying by yourself, like alone at your house on a solo experience. Then I mean, it's obvious, right? You just go for even
Yeah.
if they're exactly the same, but one happens to be 1080p and one happens to be 900p. Even myself, I'd be like, well, okay, like this is not a shared experience. It's only I'm playing it by myself. Everything's identical except for the P's. I'd still obviously get the 1080p version. It just makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like like I'm not buying Dragon Age Origin. Like that game is not on my radar in any way, shape, or form. But in just to replace that game with any game that has a similar, resolution thing, that's what it's going to come down to for me. The better performing game.
Totally.
Um,
Vinman's in the
so
chat saying he doesn't care about P's. He just wants great games, and that's Sean and I totally agree with that too. At the end of the day, it's like we want the best versions of the games that we can play, but at the end of the day, a slight reduction in P's is not going to change a great game. Like if it's a great game, it's a great fucking game. The P's don't make the game, and I think that's something we can all agree on.
totally.
Totes, totes my goats. You want to you want
Sorry, I'm trying to get my dog inside. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like I don't want to reduce this because it does matter. We have HD televisions. These consoles should be expected. The problem I have, and it's a double-edged sword for me in terms of the Xbox One, because I really do enjoy the Kinect. I really do enjoy the Kinect 2.0. I use it a lot. I use it to turn on my Xbox. I use it to go anywhere, navigate, whatever. I love it. I think it works 98% of the time really well.
Yeah, I'm up
Xbox
there with
On
you.
is the only thing that I have a problem with. And stop listening, see? And so it just winds up being like, for me, it sucks that they bet so big on the Kinect that they had to pull back on other things,
Yeah,
which is preventing it from being the best it can
all it could
possibly
be.
be in terms of the
It's
gameplay. Because, and then they should have known better that the Kinect wasn't going to be the centerpiece of this thing. It was a console, a games console. That's what most people wanted it for,
yeah.
and that should have been the priority. And
Totally. See, I'm glad the Connect was there. I kind of still wish that they didn't fumble the fucking ball like they did at the beginning, and they didn't have to go back. Like I like that it was packaged in, and they were like firm on that. The problem
yeah,
was
yeah.
that the messaging was just butchered, and they kind of, like you said, put something. The wrong foot forward in a sense. They should have started the other way.
And,
But I will say I was
but even regardless of the messaging, it is what it is, and hindsight being 2020, whatever. But the thing is that because the Kinect uses it has its own operating system
yeah,
internally.
it's sucking
It's it
power.
was it's taking power away from that. And yeah, they said, oh well, by reducing the Kinect, you have 10% more functionality, but that shouldn't be because they still have to reserve for the Kinect. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, that's what
And
that's what got
it's
me worried when they were saying talking about that stuff, and I'm guessing it's a toggle on the developer end though, because it was like, well, wait a minute, what about me with my Kinect then? Because I want to keep my Kinect plugged in. Does that mean I don't have access? Like my version doesn't have access to that 10%? But it must be a programmer thing. They can toggle and do the power. Um, but yeah, Kinect's a different story. I
I
will
think
say
that
on
might
the
have to do
question
with
of
like voice controls and stuff like that aren't going to be integrated into the
totally.
game.
I will say on the topic of like power between the two consoles, though I know we're getting sidebar a little bit. I was surprised like before they revealed Xbox One and PlayStation 4, I was convinced like without a doubt that Microsoft was gonna have the beast. I didn't think it would be reversed. Not that PS4 is like some beast, but I honestly was like Microsoft is gonna have. I just expected and anticipated them to have the more powerful machine for some reason, and I thought it was funny. At the end of the day, that wasn't the case. But I was convinced after that last generation that when Microsoft showed the Xbox One, it was gonna be an absolute beast. And just came in fighting with the competition. It's still a great console. Again, I'm not like the power's there. We're gonna have some amazingly beautiful games as they start to tap into the power of both of these consoles. But if you would ask me
Well,
beforehand, which one do you think will be more powerful, I would have guessed the Xbox, which it didn't
I
end up being
would,
that
and
way.
the thing is, well, I mean, yeah, it's funny because it's just like this weird thing where it's like PlayStation 2 was less powerful than the Xbox. And I know some people will say, oh, Xbox games were held back. No, if you look at Splinter Cell and games that were made on the Xbox, to get those games to run on PlayStation 2, a lot of compromises had to be made.
Yeah.
Whole portions of levels are taken out of Splinter Cell. The lighting had to be changed, all this stuff that had to be changed to make it work on that console, and it doesn't look as nearly as good as it does on Xbox.
Yeah.
That's why in that generation, if it was a multi-platform game, I bought it on Xbox. I
Yeah.
played it on Xbox, and then the
Admittedly, there's
same with
not as
last.
big of a difference. I personally don't think there's as big of a difference though this gen between like PS4 and Xbox One comparatively to like the Xbox and the PS2 in a sense. I don't think we'll be like
Oh, I don't.
losing
I don't.
features. Again, we'll probably just we got to take that slight downgrade if we're an Xbox One guy and drop it down to 900p.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct. And then last generation, the PlayStation 3 was the more powerful, technically more powerful console. And when you saw their exclusives, you really saw that power. But on cross-gen games, and a lot. And the funny thing is that here's the thing: you got like Xbox fans are dealing with a slightly lower resolution. Games on PlayStation, cross-gen games, were kind of broken. You know what I mean? Like throughout the generation, you had from BioShock being terrible, the port of the Orange Box was terrible,
Yeah.
so much so that that Gabe Newell fucking called out the PlayStation 3 as a fucking terrible idea. Like
I
just
remember that, and then he had to take the stage a year or two later when Portal 2, I think, was coming out or maybe the first Portal was hitting PlayStation. I
Portal
remember
2. It was Portal 2.
Portal 2, but yeah, you remember that he made a big stink about Sony and the PlayStation, and then I think even when he went on stage a year later for whatever it was, he even brought that up himself. Like, I know you're all surprised to see me up here on the Sony stage, but here's Portal.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, so, like, so that is something that was very real last generation, and it was, and like, I got the platinum in Skyrim
On the
on
PlayStation?
PlayStation.
See,
Yes,
that's
like
crazy,
that.
man. Here's my real quick. Here's my Skyrim story that pissed me off with that game because, as a lot of people know, Skyrim did not run very well on the PlayStation 3 by comparison to the Xbox 360 version. Sorry if you hear squeaking, side doors being opened. Now I bought the PlayStation. I had both consoles, and I usually bought my multi-plat games on the Xbox 360. But I was watching
Same.
IGN's like preview or review or something like that, and it was like right before the game came out, and they were talking about their experience, and they said, okay, listen, if you're gonna get this game, and I think they were talking about the Xbox 360 version, fairly. If you're gonna get the game, it runs better if you install the game on your hard drive. And I still only had a launch Xbox 360 with a 20 gig compared to my 500 gig PS3. So I went, oh, it runs better if you install it. I don't have the room to install it on Xbox. I'll install it on PlayStation and buy it for PlayStation because they hadn't really talked about the stuttering issues. So I just went off this hard drive
Yeah.
install. So I went out and bought it on PlayStation so that I could have it on the drive, like Sony does, whatever. And then I ran into the issues. It was all fine and dandy, and then about 25 hours, 30 hours in, once I had a bunch of save files going, that thing just chug a lug a lug all night long.
Yeah, I mean, and I got the platinum before they patched it. Like, I had to use every possible troubleshooting workaround to get that game to function, for me to complete it. I could possibly do, and so that's a real thing. Like, so it's so weird. It's weird that it went from, like, I thought, it was going to go back to, like, PlayStation 2 versus Xbox, and have it be okay. Xbox is more powerful, and then PlayStation. But Sony did something smart, and they listened to developers, and they said, "What do you want us to do?" And they said, "Build it with a PC architecture." And then they didn't have some proprietary cell chip in there, and they didn't have their own
Yeah,
everything in there is you can.
admittedly a powerful machine capable of wonderful things, but you had to be a technical genius to wrap your mind around that friggin' cell processor.
And so now here we are, and it's like, I don't know. It's just like I said, like, it's just unfortunate that I feel like Microsoft gambled so big on the Kinect, and then not only did they gamble on the Kinect, but this is the console that we have for the next 5 years, and the Kinect is nowhere to be seen. Like, yeah, they're gonna release it. I think it's supposed to be out this month, October, as a standalone, and the problem is that, like, well, yeah, but that's just now it's just reduced to a peripheral. It's not an integral part of the machine, and you made the sacrifice for now what is essentially a peripheral, which now this is what we're going to have to deal with for the next 5 years. I believe it's going to get better. We've already seen examples: Diablo, Wolfenstein. There's definitely games that are both Tomb Raiders ran at 1080p, although the PlayStation 4 one was 60 frames per second versus
30,
an
yeah.
unlocked 60 versus lock 30. So I mean, there's going to be these compromises and stuff that has to be made and stuff, but it's just like, man, if you would have just not really, I don't understand how Microsoft completely was tone deaf on what people want from their games console, and and it's staggering to me, like, with from the used games all the way down to the Kinect to all this stuff. It's just weird. And thankfully Phil Spencer's there, and I think he has to toe the company line, but I think he's doing some good things, and it's going to be good for Xbox owners as well. But that's why I bought both. I will always have one main console, and then my other one is my secondary. It just so happens that this generation, my secondary is my Xbox.
Exactly. There's always a console that is the main, and the others are the exclusive boxes. Like last gen for me, it was the Xbox 360 was like my main, and my
Same.
PS3 was my exclusive box, and my Nintendo machine was my Nintendo machine, and that's sort of what it's. Well, right now I haven't picked up my PS4 yet, so like right now, obviously my Xbox One is my main machine, my Wii U is my Nintendo box, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when I grab my PS4. I keep waiting for the game. There's been a couple times where I thought I was going to get it, and I haven't. I think Bloodborne might be the one. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I've got a lot of the community that I play with on Xbox 360 or on Xbox 360. I play with on Xbox One now, but I'm obviously a guy that for my single player stuff as well. Like I like achievements over trophies, but I also want to play the best version of the game I can have. I'm really curious to see what happens with me if I end up going PlayStation 4. Because I can get the few extra Ps or the little bump in frame rate, or if I stick with my third-party stuff on Xbox as well, and PS4 is my exclusives box as well. It's going to be interesting to see how that pans out for me.
And that's the thing. Like, I don't begrudge anybody who has their preferences based on controllers or based on the online infrastructure or whatever the case may be. I don't, if you
No,
want to
people like what
have,
they like, right? That's, I mean,
yeah, if
it's
I'm just in a
preferences.
fortunate position that I don't have that preference. Like, I don't have a controller that I like more. Well, there might be like I like X on the Xbox controller more than I like X on PlayStation 4, but then
Yeah, that's
there's
the thing.
also
I
things
always
like I
have
like this.
preferences of things I like better on one console than the other. But my big thing is that I like to play really great games, and I like some of the Xbox exclusives just as much as I like some of the PlayStation exclusives, just as much as I like the Nintendo exclusives. Like I need those experiences, and until I can play all of those games, until I can play Gears of War and Uncharted and Super Mario on one machine, I have to have those consoles. It's
Yeah, yeah, no,
inevitable
and
throughout the generation. It's usually after the first year or so when I get them all together. Like I had my PS4 at launch, but I'd made the choice that I went with Xbox One because it had more games at launch that I wanted to try. So I sold my PS4 and put that money towards a bigger launch lineup. But now I'm almost there. I'm almost ready. I got to have that machine back in place because I want to stay on top of those exclusives.
yeah, I mean the next big one is going to be Bloodborne, so
Yeah,
and
and I'm
that's
excited for
not
that.
too far
So
away.
yeah, I think
That's not too far away.
it looks good. Bloodborne is going to be a good one. All right, so that's it. Any final thoughts on the Ubisoft, BioWare thingamabob? We kind of went off on a tangent there, but that's okay. That's what we do.
No, I mean that was the topic of the week, and that was something that we were, it requires a good discussion. I'm glad I wasn't. The thing is, like I've had to explain this like several times. Like it's just like reading, thread after thread after thread about people talking about who cares about peas, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, it's not about the resolution. Like stop
No, and people need
obfuscating.
to remember too that like if Xbox One, like when they get their good exclusive games start rolling out, like Sunset Overdrive and Quantum Break looks really awesome. Those games may very well turn out to be 900p, but they're exclusive games, and guess what? Like they're gonna be fucking gorgeous games. If I see people going, "Oh, Sunset Overdrive's only 900p," I'm just gonna flip my shit because
I'll just ignore them.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I try to. I try to. It's every now and again, you read a thread and you see a word or comment, you're just like, oh God, no, I can't.
Yeah, well, no,
And you're
I know, and
biting
I'm
your
the same
fingers
way.
and they hit the
But it's
keyboard.
I usually only chime in when someone says something utterly ridiculous, just so I can point out how ridiculous it is that they said it. Um,
And then
and
the
I
thread
usually, and I'm also
explodes.
very, very, very anti fanboy, even though I've been accused of being a PlayStation fanboy, which makes no sense because I'm not overly critical of the Xbox. I think I'm critical enough of both of them.
No, the
Next
reality
month.
is a fanboy is somebody that sort of pledges allegiance to like a brand or a company, and if you're a true
Yeah.
fanboy, the reality is you're probably not playing on Xbox One. You're, if anything, you're a a wannabe fanboy. You're insecure about your Xbox One purchase. You have it, and you also play on PlayStation, but you've decided I'm gonna take up the flag of PlayStation and spit on Xbox, even though I'm secretly
Well,
playing
and that's the
Xbox
thing.
One
Like, I
games in
would
the
never do
background.
that. It's just like the things that I'm critical of are things that you should be critical of. There are things that you should like. They're not saying that it sucks. It's just like this is a fact, and it might not be the most positive thing to say, but it's still a fact.
It
Like
is a
I mean,
fact. It's just
don't
one of
get me
those
wrong.
things where it's in the grand scheme of things, like everybody's just got to back away from it because it doesn't. It's one of the lower things of importance when you're checking off like what it means to be a great looking game and how we're gonna have an awesome looking game. Like just, I mean, it's obviously 1080p is better. That being said, if it's an exclusive game and there's nowhere else to compare it to, and it's something looking as good as it does at 900p, then there's no reason to complain about 900p.
Well, I mean, there's just no reason to complain about it at all. It's still high resolution. It's still HD. It's just the problem that there's something out there that's does something better than what the box that you decided you wanted to pledge your allegiance to does.
It's crazy.
But I
Somebody
mean, don't
pointed
get me
out that the
wrong.
Xbox One games, I didn't even notice this myself until I looked at the back of Mordor, that Xbox One games they don't even put the resolution on the back of the box anymore.
They don't put it. I didn't see the resolution on the Evil Within either on the back of the box.
And are you playing that on Xbox?
No, I played it on PlayStation 4.
Oh, okay, all right.
But no, man, I always got to go for the best version, dude.
Yeah, all right, all right.
um,
But when you said it wasn't on the
but
back, I just like I that's always been a trend that I've always been used to is seeing that the resolution on the back of the box, and somebody was like,
let me
Microsoft doesn't
look.
even do it anymore. And I looked at Mordor and I was like, oh yeah. So I'm curious if the
Let me
PS4 version of Shadow of Mordor
let me look.
has that on there or not, but Evil Within apparently doesn't. So
Oh no, it does. It does. It says
yeah, that's what I
1080p.
thought. It's probably the biggest, brightest stat on the box.
Well, the funny,
1080p. P
no,
P.
but it's not because the thing is like it's I don't think that's what that. I don't think it means native though. I just think because I'm pretty sure Watch Dogs is only 900p on PlayStation 4, and that says 1080p output too. So I think it's just because of the upscaling.
Ah.
Um,
Yeah, it
but
doesn't.
I'm not sure.
Anyways, it doesn't
Uh,
really matter.
but yeah, the I don't know. But regardless, it's and like I said, it comes for me. It just comes down to the little minutia like that for where I'm gonna play the game. Like for Evolve and Call of Duty, I'm getting them on Xbox, regardless of any resolution. I just feel like I'd have more people to play with over there.
Well, Xbox has
That
been known as well, to be a bigger pool of sort of the competitive first-person shooter type players, and that's
and that's
mainly
the thing.
because of the
I
network and just the stumbles that Sony had early on too. Just the fact that they didn't even like package the console with a
Well, they're having
microphone, and
them now.
Microsoft did, and
They're having those stumbles right now
Are you
with
referring
Drive
to Drive?
Club.
Yeah, dude, can you fill me in a little bit? I just saw somebody. I don't want to go off on a Drive Club tangent here, but
Wh-
this is a game about clubs and socializing, and Sony's been hyping this game up, and Evolution Studios have been excited about it, and it's out, and it's been out for since Tuesday, I think, or maybe a little bit
Yeah,
earlier. And all I've been hearing
Tuesday.
is I can't connect, I'm getting booted, the online isn't working, and that's crazy. This is a game that's been supposedly was supposed to be ready for launch, then delayed more, and now comes out basically a year later than it's supposed to, and it's still like kind of like an incomplete game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the content and stuff like that. I've heard people talk about the content. It's a racing game, so it doesn't even register on my radar because
Yep.
racing games are garbage. But the
Oh.
the but the fact is that this is this goes back to the Adam Orth and the original vision of Xbox One. This is why an always online console is not a good idea. This is why we were upset when they said they were doing this. It's not about who said it. Anybody coming to it the table, and now this is PlayStation coming with an always online game that you cannot access and you cannot get the full features of, and that is bullshit and that is shitty, and that is why always online games like you come with that. Like I know I love Titanfall. Titanfall's probably my favorite shooter of the year, and but the problem, that game had problems. That when that server goes down, you cannot play that game, and that's a problem. You know what I mean? Like, granted, it's an always online, it's a multiplayer competitive shooter, so it makes some sense. But Drive Club should have some level of being able to experience and play that game and enjoy that game by yourself.
I think
And I
you
said the
can,
same.
right? I think you can still, if you have the full version, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and somebody in the Twitch chat can correct me too, but I think with Drive Club, if you want, you can technically play it not connected, but it defeats like the whole purpose of the game. So now basically
No, no, no,
you're
no,
playing
no.
against like stats of your friends,
N-
you can't
No,
even
no, no,
boot
no,
it
no,
up.
no, no. It goes even farther than that because you can't access cars you've unlocked if the server's not online. That's
Ah,
bullshit. That is
okay.
bullshit, and they need to fix that. And that is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Where I say always online is not the fucking future. It will never be the future. It's the connections are not 100% foolproof. Like all I need is a power supply going to my TV and the cables to hook it up. If one of those cables goes, it's not the game's fault, it's the cable, so I replace the cable.
Yep.
You cannot do anything about this. You are basically stuck with a pretty coaster. And I don't I'm not on board with that. You
Yep,
know what I
I,
mean?
I,
I'm just not.
I hear that. I hear that. I wouldn't be
It's
down
just,
for
and
the
it's
always
just
online well, in a way Xbox One is an always online console. I appreciate the moments where like I never have to like wait for updates anymore. Like it's updating when I'm in bed and shit's
no,
happening.
and that's the thing.
But I get what you're saying.
Having
If you
it
have a game and you should be able to access chunks of that game and still have it be an enjoyable experience when
having
it's offline.
I have like I am not one of the, here's the thing, like when I made my big stink back about the always online thing, it wasn't because like I don't look at this things like, well, my Xbox, my consoles are always hooked up to the internet. Yeah, they are, but there's always that situation where it's not, and I would hate to be stuck in a situation where I'm not. And
Yeah.
people say go out and play and go out and read or go read a book. So I'm like, no, this is what I
Yeah,
want
no,
to
I
do.
hate
Like
that. Hey,
I'll
I
read a
want to play
book
a
when I
video game,
want
but
to
I
read a
can't.
book.
Well, you know what you should do? Something totally different then. But I want to play a video game.
Yeah, it's like no, I don't want to do that. Like that's not what I want
Doing
to do, and
something
that's the
else that you didn't want to do should be perfectly acceptable when you can't do what you want to do.
and that's the thing. Like what you know with and like I don't have, and this is like I had the same problem with Destiny. Like when Destiny came out, I was like, and I wound up playing 90% of Destiny that I played by myself. I played all through the campaign by myself. I did a tons of the daily missions and the strikes and stuff by myself. The only ones I didn't do were the ones where you needed somebody to revive you. Otherwise, you were dead. But like, and you had to restart the whole mission over. But like, I don't know. Like, I like being able to just sit here and go, okay, well, I'm going to play this game by myself if I want to, and if I want to play it co-op, I will. I like having options, and the fact is that you can't do that. If Destiny's down, you're not playing Destiny,
Yeah.
and that's. I understand that's your vision, and that like fine, but I don't really, especially now that I've played Destiny, I really don't see how having an offline mode would have affected your greater vision for Destiny. Like you could say, you could have a little thing that's saying online features. If you do not, if you're not connected online, you will miss out on a large portion of the experience of this game. And then you go, okay, and then you play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that. Just sitting there cutting off something like that, like for something that can be done by yourself, is just it's just stupid.
All right.
Um,
Well, it's a good chat. I mean, it's we can go on and on about like the
yeah,
online
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff,
Of
but we'll
course.
move on. But Sean and I are going to do a little bit of trivia with each other. Before we do that, though, I just wanted to address the Twitch chat one last time. And Vinman, or Vinman, as Sean has been correcting me to say, he's asking, do you think they have already maxed out the potential of the new gen? And I replied quickly with, not a chance. And we're going to see this with every console. I know these consoles are starting from a place that's closer to PC, not high-end PC, but the architecture is built so that they can kind of jump in, and the growing pains aren't going to be quite there the same way they were when they jumped from standard def to the high def of Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. That being said, I think we're just going to see better and better and better and stuff all the way up until the end. I mean, we saw the little snippet of what Naughty Dog's going to be kind of putting forth with Uncharted, and it's absolutely jaw dropping. Like if you told me that
Dude,
games were going to look like that a few years ago, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. But now we're
dude.
going to get that, and guess what? Like there's a good chance that as brilliant and mind-blowing as Uncharted looks, the next Uncharted 5 years from now, or the next Last of Us, or maybe even Red Dead Redemption 2, or whatever it is, farther down the line of these consoles is gonna blow our mind again. I don't think you ever really see the consoles get tapped, and I think it'll hold true for these current ones
Of
until they're
course.
on their way out, and then we'll be like, now they're tapped. They're always gonna
Here's
surprise us.
the fun. Somebody posted a essentially a before and after picture of Nathan Drake from not from Uncharted One and Nathan Drake from Uncharted for the picture that they just posted saying this is Nathan Drake's character model for the game. It is ridiculous. I mean, it's like it's like looking at like Lara Croft. It looks like a PlayStation One game. It's just so jarring on
Yeah.
how different these look. And I remember when I first played Uncharted, I was like, I would just roll around in the water just so I could see his clothes get wet.
Yeah, the
You know what I
denim.
mean?
I remember
Like,
that too. The denim would get wet, and I would stand there and I would stare at it and watch it dry, and just be like, "Holy shit,
yeah,
this
and
is
I'm like,
awesome!" But
and
those are great moments in video games, man. Like it happened when I was playing Rise for the first time too, where I was panning the camera around, and I shit you not, I was staring at the loose, wrinkly skin on his elbow joint, and I went, "Ooh, like this is what these consoles are bringing me to, where I'm looking at the folds of skin on elbows, going, oh my god, Gene, stop reading that book. Come into the living room and look at this elbow skin."
I know.
But yeah, I mean,
I'm the same way.
we haven't tapped these things. You know, you can see that all the way back from the earliest consoles, and even like look at Super NES as well. Like you know, we thought things couldn't get any better, and then all of a sudden Rare was like, "Oh, hey guys, by the way, we can kind of simulate like fully rendered graphics here on the Super Nintendo," and we got Donkey Kong Country, and everybody was like, "What the hell?" So and we're gonna keep seeing these things advance and get better as people start figuring out the architecture more and more and more and get more comfortable with it. And who knows, bringing it back to the P's, who knows, once people get the ESRAM or whatever it is figured out, maybe down the line there will be parity and Xbox One will be hitting 1080p on a more regular basis. We'll
And then
find
that'll be
out.
good. That'll be good because I mean, it'll be good for everybody, but it won't be good for me because then it'll make my decisions much harder.
Oh, well, make sure you write a letter to Microsoft and tell them, listen, guys, I really want you guys to work on this, and it'd be great if you hit 1080p. But just when you're having your meetings, I want you to think about me and the decision I'm gonna have to make when I'm looking at these two games now that are exactly the same on both consoles. Just think about that, Microsoft, please. Thank you. All right, everybody. It's been fun chatting about that. But now Sean and I are going to play a little game with each other. We're going to ask each other three questions. It's basically guess the game. And you that are
Oh,
listening.
guess the game. I did it differently. I did
Okay.
actual trivia questions.
Okay. Well, you can ask whatever you can ask whatever your trivia questions are. Mine are kind of like
Okay,
guess the
I'll
game.
just change the way I'm asking about it. Okay,
All right,
that's
so we're
fine.
gonna we're gonna go back and forth, and you that are listening live, watching live right now, you guys are allowed to play along with us and try and guess the game. And Sean and I basically have to get the answer before one of you do. And there's a bit of a time limit, so we're not waiting too long. But I may have gone too easy on Sean, but we'll see. Here's my first question for you, Sean.
Okay.
This 90s video game appeared on the Sega Genesis and allow Oh, hang on, I wrote it out differently. Let me restart this. Here we go. In this 90s video game, players control a puppet with a detachable head. The head can be fired in 8 directions. Name the game.
For Genesis?
It was for Genesis. It's a 90s game. Players control a puppet. I didn't know he was a puppet at the time, but players control a puppet with a detachable head, and this head can be fired in 8 different directions. Here's a
I
hint.
have no
It
idea.
was
Did not
developed
play that
by
game.
Treasure, a great company of the 90s.
Never, did no idea.
The answer is Dynamite Headdy, a great Genesis
Didn't.
game. It was exclusive to Genesis for a while, and I think it eventually made it onto the Game Gear. But a great platformer from the developer's Treasure. Sean, 0 for 1. Let me see. Let me see what you got for me. I'm waiting for the curveball.
Okay, so Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic was the original name of what game?
Um, Super Mario Brothers 2.
Correct.
Yes! Ding, ding, ding! 1 for 1. All right. Look at this. The crown is always on my head, Sean. Question number 2.
Wait. We didn't talk about the predictions for Xbox One's first week in
Yeah,
China,
we did. We
where
brought
I
them
was.
up. You won. We
We,
talked about it. Maybe not on a
we talked about
podcast.
it in chat, not
So
on the
it will
podcast. I
die.
would like to say that for you people who listen, I predicted 100,000 in the first week. I was correct,
I was
Mister 3 million.
I was way
Fucking
off. I was
premature
like, come on,
ejaculation.
come on, China population, come through for me. But no,
But
apparently
then we came to find out that they can only sell a total of
a
5 million.
yeah,
So
over a lifetime, which I did not know that ahead of time. That would have been fun to know. But anyways, that's besides the point. We're going on. New contest. I got 1, you got 0. Question number 2, Sean. In the 1990s, Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo would often get their own versions of essentially the same game or very similar games. And my example for you is Turtles in Time. That game came out on the Super Nintendo as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4: Turtles in Time. Now, at the same time, the Sega Genesis got their own version of that same game, but they stripped away the time traveling elements of it and called it something else and gave it its own title. It was a butchered version of Turtles in Time to be a Genesis game. Name the game. Name the game.
Okay. Well, so a couple things. One, I was an SNES kid. Number one.
Yeah, I know. I
Number
know. That's
two.
why I'm giving you some Genesis questions.
Number two. I could not give less of a fuck about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So number three, based on one and two, I don't fucking know.
Oh man, Sean. All right. Well, the Genesis butchering of Turtles in Time, with all the time travel segments taken out, was actually called the Hyperstone Heist. There you
That's
go.
great.
You learned something today, Sean.
Here's
0
the
for
thing.
2.
Let me. Wait, I forgot to put number four in there. I actually had good taste in video games
Oh,
back
what?
then
Turtles in
too.
Time, one of the greatest co-op side-scrolling brawlers of all time. Come on, man. Come on, Sean. Don't be pulling that crap on me here. Let's see. Let's see what you got. Question number 2. Let's see if you can stump me.
Okay, Project Zway was the code name for what 2014 game?
Oh shit. Project Zwei. Can you use it in a sentence, Sean? A different sentence. No, I'm just kidding. Zwei. How do you spell Zwei? How do you spell that?
ZWEI.
Oh, okay. Shit. Project Zwei. What year was it?
2014.
2014 game. Project Zwei. Holy shit. I know. As soon as you spelt it, I was like, I remember reading, seeing the title. I'm having a hard time here though. I'm drawing a blank. Project Zwei.
Just
Can you give me
you got
another
to
hint?
answer. You can't. No, you can't. You got to answer the question.
Give me a
And
console. Give
no,
me a
your
console.
stall tactics. It's on all four platforms.
Ah, Project Sway. Fuck! I'm not gonna get it, man. When you tell me what it is, I'm gonna shit myself though. But what is it?
It is the Evil Within, aka Psycho Break.
Ah, Psycho Break, Evil Within. Good one. That was a good question. I should have known that. It's very familiar. Good call. You got me. Stumped me there. All right. Question number 3, Sean, coming your way. This is the one
I'm
that I
not gonna
think.
get this one.
No, this you
Okay.
have to get this one to tie. But I think you will. This is the easiest one and the one I feel most confident in your ability to answer. Before Heavy Rain, Quantum Dream, the developers of Heavy Rain and Beyond, made a game called Indigo Prophecy. What was Indigo Prophecy's original name?
Fahrenheit.
Ding, ding, ding. There you go. I knew you would get that one.
I
One
love
for
that
three.
game.
I am right now 1 for 2. Come on, Sean. Let's see your final question. Can you keep us tied, or will I take the crown?
Okay. This 1992 Genesis game.
All right. I'm tingling.
This was a critical and commercial success and set the Guinness World Record as the best-selling French game of all time in 1992.
Whoa, Genesis, 1992, and it's a French game.
Yep. And it is my favorite game on the Genesis.
Damn.
That's the
Okay.
only
When
other
you
hint
say
I'll give
French
you.
game, it makes me think back like Ubisoft and the original Rayman, but I don't remember that hitting Genesis either. French game. It's a French developer?
Yes.
Genesis. 1992 became the best game of all time. Holy shit. That's a good question.
I feel like if I give you like tell you the
Any hint
developer
will be
or
too
anything, you're
obvious.
gonna yeah, it'll give it away.
Yeah. All right, give me the first letter of the developer.
D. That's the only hint I'm giving you
No,
because
that
this
doesn't help
is
me at all either. Fuck. Um,
we've talked about my favorite Genesis game before.
shit
You just
balls.
don't listen to me.
That's very true. I don't. Your voice comes on and I like mute you. I haven't actually been listening to a word you said all podcast. Um, holy shit, this is pissing me off, man. I'm annoyed that I can't figure this one out right now. D is a developer.
Mister,
Genesis
I'm gonna
is.
ask you two Genesis questions.
I know, right? Holy shit. Yeah, fuck. I don't know. Tell me what it is.
Flashback.
Oh, flashback.
Developed by Delphine Software.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I wouldn't have got that. All right, so there you have
So we're
it.
tied.
1 for 3. Damn. I don't like that we're ending in a tie. God damn it.
Well,
Okay, I'm looking at my game collection right now. I'm gonna try and give you a question.
wait, we're
Um,
just gonna keep doing this
no,
until we're
we're
not
not. I'm
tied
just
anymore.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's
It's like, hang on, Sean.
accept the tie.
It goes on for like a couple more hours. Okay, well, that's it. We did good. 1 for 3. Those were good questions. I got stumped a couple times. I'm sure the viewers were a little bit stumped. But that's been the show for this week. Unless you got something else you want to throw in there, Sean.
Nope. Just again, I want to plug that WeTheNerdy.com tomorrow at 9:01 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12:01 a.m. on the 14th. Eastern Standard Time. My review for The Evil Within will be up and ready for everyone to consume. I'm really looking forward to talking about that game next week in more detail. The one thing I will say that this isn't really a spoiler, but Psycho Break is a better name for that game.
I've heard people say that
They
many times, and without even
just no,
playing it, I agree.
not even no, but after having played it, I think
It
Psycho Break was a better name for that game.
cool.
But yeah, so yeah, that'll be up tomorrow. You can follow me on Twitter at N2 and other. That's the letter N, the number two, the letter N, the word other, all together. N2 and other on Twitter. That's also my PSN and my gamer tag.
All right, there you go. Everybody, you can follow me on Twitter at Red Eye Games Live. I write about video games for KidsWorld.com too, but that's a kids website and it's mostly juvenile material, so you don't need to know or visit that. You're too old for that crap. But follow me on Twitter at Red Eye Games Live. You can follow me on Twitch. We're on my Twitch channel right now. Hit that follow button. I do a lot of game streams and fun little show things. And this has been Rated M for Podcast, episode 29. Make sure you check out Rated M for Podcast on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Rated M for Podcast as well, but I believe it's I think it's at Rated M Podcast is our Twitter handle. And
Yeah, it's at Rated M.
of course, go over to twitch.tv/Rated M for podcast as well. I believe it is. It's a mess. We're all over the place. Find our
It's all right.
Find our
Here,
Facebook
what
group
Rory
page.
doesn't know. What
Find
Rory
our-
doesn't know is
No.
that our bumper
No, I should. Oh yeah,
has all this information on it.
there we go. Sean's correcting me. Our bumper that you're going to hear any second, I guess, after I shut the fuck up, is going to tell you where to find all this fun
On the
information.
audio version, yes.
I never listen to the audio version.
Oh yeah, and we should have a full team again next week. So
Yes, I know you guys have really enjoyed Drew not being here this week, but fear not, he will be back to hosting duties next week, and I will be then pushed back to my normal sidekick chair instead of wielding the power that I have been wielding tonight. It's been a really good time, though. Sean, thanks for coming out and hanging out with us once again.
yes, and thank you
Yes.
for having me. I love doing this every week. So
It's a
you know, I
blast.
missed it last week.
Yeah, it sucked. It felt like it's been too long since we've done this. So everybody, remember we do this live on Twitch every week, so you can check us out. And as Sean said, the bumper at the end will play all that fun stuff. So until next time, everybody, this has been Rated M for Podcast. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next week. Later.
Later.